Tip number 1, when you're starting the game of Transport Fever 2 and you're building your first truck depots, don't build the standard truck depot that you get given. When you're placing it down, go to the settings tab, remove the platform on the left so you've just got the one on the right, and shorten the length down to 10 meters. That will save you about $80,000, which is good to have in the early game. So make sure you save that money. When you start Transport Fever 2, you probably won't have a lot of cargo coming out and not a lot of vehicles, so it won't matter. And you can always click configure and add platforms later down the line. Tip number 2, if you're struggling with traffic at your truck depots and railway stations, the easiest way to reduce that traffic is to configure your platform and add more platforms. Now when you do this, it's not just good enough to add the extra platforms. What you want to do is also manage the line and make sure that the vehicles can use any line they come across. If you're still struggling with traffic once you've added those, and the vehicles are still coming through and having issues, you can of course add more platforms and add those lines in as well. And once you do that, you'll see your trucks use multiple platforms to load and unload their cargo, leaving you with a smooth flow through your truck depots. Tip number 3, it can be tempting when you jump into a game of Transport Fever 2 to start with passenger lines, but passenger lines when you're starting are very unpredictable. There's no way to understand the demand that's going to be on your line, and you can end up in a pretty sticky situation when the towns are small and you've not got enough passengers using your route. So better than that is to go straight for cargo and build up a base of income for your industry before you go on to passenger lines. Tip number 4, when you're playing Transport Fever 2, is to look for towns where the cargo that they demand has the raw material nearby, like Willenhall here. It has a need for bricks and it has the stone nearby, so this is a great candidate for our starting industry. And the reason for that is that we can set up our line to take the raw materials from the industry near the town out to a processing factory like this construction factory and return with the bricks to the town, making for a very profitable line. Tip number 5 is to subscribe to this YouTube channel and it will make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Only kidding, it's not a real tip. On to the next tip. Tip number 5 is not quite to set it up like that because it doesn't give you full control of the rate of your line. The best way to set up your line is to go here and remove the drop off in the town like so. But you may think that that will mean that your bricks will not come back to this one, so you need to set up a separate line to connect that depot to the town. With the line set up and separated like this, it gives you more control of the rate. Looking at the red industry here, we have a supply of and a shipment demand of 100, so we can increase the number of vehicles on this red line to meet that number 100. And then on the downstream line going to your town, we can have a look at the demand from the town and make sure that the line rate matches the required demand from the town as well. This means now that you have a perfectly balanced cargo line which can grow with your town. Tip number 6 is if you're struggling with the amount of cargo on your depot, is to make sure the terminals are split so that each line has its own cargo depot. Now this is good for storage, but it doesn't mean that you can't make sure that each line is able to use all the platforms for its pickup and drop off. Just make sure they have their own terminal so that you spread out the cargo and maximize the storage in your depots. Tip number 7, if you're struggling with the shipment demand at a factory and you want to be able to level it up, the simplest way to do this is to go to your truck depot where you're dropping off that material, add in a couple of new lines that take you to other towns which are demanding that industry. When adding the vehicles, you can simply add one vehicle to your new line, to your new town, and with the one vehicle added to that line, even though it is a long way and a convoluted route, so you're not going to make much money, by simply adding that single vehicle onto your line, you've increased the shipment demand at your factory, which will soon level up. Tip number 8, if you are worried about having a blue number at your truck depot or your train station and you're worried about losing cargo, don't worry, it's not going to cost you any money. And certainly don't configure your depot and put down a warehouse, because those warehouses are going to cost you a fair penny and aren't going to solve the problem. To solve the problem, you simply need to make sure that your line rates here match up the amount that is being shipped by your producing factory. If they match up and you have a higher line rate than the shipping number, you'll be fine and that number will stay under control. Tip number 9 is to use warehouses when you are having changeovers between vehicle types, such as this boat and truck connection we have here. When this boat comes in, it's going to drop off a lot of coal which will not be able to go on to these trucks, and they will not be able to take it all at once in that time. We're going to lose some of that cargo. But these two lines in terms of rates are perfectly balanced with the number of vehicles and the rate they go in the different speeds. So the way to combat that is to configure your truck depots and to put down a warehouse to be able to handle the cargo for the short time that it takes these trucks to deal with the cargo that's been dropped off by this ship. Tip number 10 is when you are using warehouses, don't use the small cargo stations because they cost almost the same, in fact the same sometimes, as the large ones. So if you have the space to do that, use the large cargo stations unless you're trying to do something nice and pretty. Tip number 11 is not to connect too many raw industries into your factories too early. By doing so, you'll actually split the supply between the 3 suppliers and you may starve your most profitable lines. It's best to focus on the infrastructure you already have and maximize that first. Before you do that, wait for the industry here to level up before you connect in any more industries. In this instance, we have steel, which can make 200, so it needs 400 coal, which can all be supplied from our profitable boat line over here. So we don't need these 2 coal mines over here, and in fact, even when it does level up and needs 800, we can supply all of that from the 2 coal mines rather than having the 3rd. That will make your life easier when balancing shipment, production and transport for your lines. Tip number 12 is to shorten your routes and make sure you avoid towns to increase their size. Towns are sensitive to noise pollution, which comes from all vehicles regardless of their emission type, whether they're electric or whether they are steam powered or whether they're petrol vehicles. So put diversionary routes around towns that give you a shorter route, increases the efficiency of your line and allows towns like this to grow without having high emission pollution. Tip number 13, if you're setting up a line to take something like coal to a steel mill here and you're further into the game so that you've got lots of industries running, be careful to use filters, because if you don't use filters, you might think that the coal from this coal mine will be the only coal that goes to this nearby steel mill here. But because we've got this connected to there, and then that steel mill connects to this machines factory over here, which also connects to this steel mill down here, these coal mines are actually all trying to supply this steel mill because they're connected convolutedly by these lines here, and eventually you'll start to starve this line of your much needed coal to keep your profits up. So make sure that you go into the line, manage line, select the filters, only load what you want to load and only unload what you're expecting to unload. If you do that, you'll have no pollution of your line by taking the raw materials far across the map, polluting your map and ending up with starved lines of goods. It may also mean that the steel mill here gets starved of coal because it's waiting for coal to come all the way from over here, and our connecting lines are not set up to transport that coal. So use the filters so that only the nearby raw materials are being supplied to your factories. Tip number 14, if you have a set of double track like I have here and you want to go over a diversion, you want to connect both tracks to your diversionary route like so. You don't have to do it like this, which looks a bit messy and costs you some additional infrastructure. Simply click on the double slip switch here, select yes, and that will be changed into a double slip switch, which means trains can transfer over the double slip switch just like they can with a normal switch and crossing. Tip number 15 is not to place your signals over your level crossings next to each other like so. If you have a train waiting at that signal, it's going to keep the level crossing down and will need to clear that before it can move on. If you stagger your signals like this, it means the train will wait before the level crossing, allowing traffic to freely flow, and when the train ahead does get going, it means that your traffic can flow and keep that level crossing clear. Tip number 16 is similar to the one before in that when you're signaling up your junctions, On the approach to the junction, you should place a signal as close to the junction as possible. But beyond the junction, you need to go at least one train length back before you start placing your signals. And this will mean that the train will not stop at that signal and block up the whole junction and slow down your network while it's at it, keeping all your traffic flowing nice and free. Tip number 17 is to use the destination layer in the toolbar to see where the most traffic is before you lay down your first passenger lines. So looking at these numbers, it tells you the number of users on each of these roads, and I can see, looking at this, that the heaviest line is the one on leaving Willenhall here, going all the way out to Mansfield over here. So this should be the priority for my first passenger line in this playthrough of Transport Fever 2.